Hey everyone, it's Jason. I want to invite you to join our new Facebook group, Living the Way of Mastery. That's right. So many people have been asking for a space, a community, and so we're creating this. It's a place to connect, to share, to be with others in the community, to ask questions. So I might sprinkle in some of the Q&A at the end of our podcast episodes, or make a whole episode just dedicated to Q&A. And it'll be a place where we can dive deeper into the teaching. So visit facebook.com/groups/living the way of mastery and come be part of the conversation in the community. See you there. Hello and welcome back to the daily study of the Way of Mastery. Today we continue with lesson 2, You Create Your Experience. Section 3, Peace flows from alignment with the mind of God. And we're going to look at paragraphs 16 and 17, which build on yesterday's. And Jeshua says, but it is possible to cultivate just the opposite, in which you learn to look with perfect innocence upon all things that arise in the field of your experience. It is possible to look with innocence and wonder at every feeling from the place of curiosity, as you would look upon a cloud that passes through the sky. Look at it, marvel at it, its shape, its color, and embrace it, knowing that it does not affect the purity of the sky through which it temporarily floats. Each of your creations is exactly like this. It arises in the field of time and space. You experience it, and then it fades away. Every hurt that you've ever known is like a cloud that began to pass into the field of your awareness because you perceived things in a certain way. If that hurt is still lodged within you, it is because you latched onto it. You followed the voice of ego, which caused you to believe that you are identified with that feeling, with that perception. And because you mistakenly thought that was you, you assumed if you let go of it, you might disappear. You might die. And so Jeshua picks up today where we left off yesterday, which is for so long we have cultivated the skill of judgment, of picking and choosing what we want to take responsibility for in our creations. And he just says that is a really tough place to be. It's really hard to transcend that sense of separation and conflict and lack of peace when we're constantly judging and picking what we want to take responsibility for. But he says the opposite is true. If we've cultivated this skill of judgment, we can also cultivate the opposite of acceptance, of looking with perfect innocence upon all things that arise in the field of your experience. Translation, anything you're experiencing in your daily life. Are you willing to look with perfect innocence at all of it? What you deem or judge the good, what you deem or judge the bad, the people in your life that you deem as uncooperative or difficult, looking at it with innocence and wonder at every feeling that you have, all your triggers, all your upsets, from a place of curiosity, like a cloud passing through the sky. And you can see the cloud. So let's say the cloud is anger towards someone or anger at the world. You can see the cloud and also recognize when you have objectivity and innocence that it doesn't affect the purity of the sky through which it temporarily floats. So all things in time are temporary. All feelings are temporary. All events are temporary. They arise like the wave and then they disappear. You know, that beautiful piece of wisdom, this too shall pass. But we get so caught up and we get so hung up, especially in our day to day. And sometimes I know for me, like when I felt kind of down or depressed or just like unhappy about a situation, in those moments, like sometimes it feels like that's going to last forever. I'm always going to be like this. This is never going to work out. We have this, we have this habit of catastrophizing things always and never and all that kind of stuff. And we forget that everything in time is temporary, including us in time. But that's the good news. Jeshua is inviting us to identify not as in time, but in timelessness, in eternity. Truly, I think about this stuff. Like if I remembered or knew that I've lived 1,000 lifetimes, let's say on earth, and I would live 1,000 more, like would I stress out so much about the things that I'm stressing out about, the day-to-day things? Would I be so like wrapped up in them? Or I would be like, oh, this is one life that I'm living amongst thousands. Let me enjoy it. Let me enjoy the choices I've made. Yeah, maybe in this lifetime I'm not famous or super wealthy or whatever it is. Maybe I'm not those things, but I'm this. Maybe I'm not like a pauper and poor and abused and all those things, which maybe I've chosen in different lifetimes. So let me enjoy this lifetime. And in the next paragraph, Jeshua is saying, your creations are exactly like this. They arise in the field of time and space, and you experience it, and then it fades away. Like, can you argue with that? That's your whole life. Especially as what you see is what you feel is like a human that lives 70 to 85 years or whatever it is. Like things rise, things fall. This too shall pass. And every hurt that you've ever known, he says, is like a cloud that began to pass into the field of your awareness because you perceived things in a certain way. So if you're perceiving life's not fair, life's out to get me, then you'll have those experiences until you change your perception. And then those experiences go away. You all of a sudden won't feel like everyone's out to get you or that people are trying to screw you over or life just doesn't want you to be happy because you've shifted your perspective. And Jeshua was saying, if the hurt from the past is still lodged within you, if the hurt from a memory is still lodged within you, it's because you've latched onto it. You've held onto it as it was moving through your field of awareness. And you followed the voice of the ego, which caused you to believe that you are identified with that feeling, with that perception. So if you're holding on to a grievance from your past or someone did something to you in your childhood and you're holding on to it, not saying that this is easy, but Jeshua is giving us the keys to freedom, giving us the way for inner liberation. Do you want to be right or do you want to be at peace? Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be right or do you want to be able to choose love and forgiveness? Not always easy, especially when we're really in that ego identity. But it's the only path to freedom. And so when that hurt is still lodged within you, you latched onto it because you identified with that feeling of pain. You said, that's me. There's so many people that are right now identified with the victim mentality. That something outside of me, it's the outside causes my inner choices. That's the victim mindset. And many people identify with their victim, with their experiences as helpless, as hopeless, because they get attention from it. Like they get something in some way. Maybe you're like finally recognize, oh my gosh, poor you, and everybody, oh, poor you. And so you get attention that maybe you wouldn't, or you get validation like, yeah, you're right to be so angry. You're right to stand up and to shout and to be mad and to want revenge. You're right. So you get, again, validation from that. But when that is where your value comes from, as being identified in your victimhood, that's what Jeshua is saying. Because you mistakenly thought that was you, who you were, you assume that if you let go of it, you might disappear, you might die. And so some people that are so, again, attached to this victim identity, not that bad things that the bad thing didn't happen to you, but it's the attachment to it. That if you let it go, who am I without this? My whole life I've identified as the child of an alcoholic. And my parents were abusive alcoholics. And I go to groups of people that reaffirm that I have a right to be, to blame life or my parents for where I am in my station and why my life isn't the way that I want it and why I'm not at peace or why I'm not happy. So if I give that up, then who am I? If I give up that story and the identity of that story, who am I? What do I have to offer? what happens if life doesn't work out the way that I wanted? Then what can I blame? So it feels like a death in some way. So Jeshua, this whole thing is about looking at your creations, which is your experience, with innocence and curiosity, understanding that this too shall pass, and allowing it to pass. Again, not an easy thing in our experience, but it is the path to freedom and love. Thanks for listening. If you get value from these, please like, subscribe, rate, leave a comment, email me, hello@revelationbreathwork.com. Share with someone that you think would also get value from it. And we will see you next time. Hey, before you go, remember how Jeshua allowed the crucifixion as a final test of faith and love and a demonstration that death is unreal? Well, we're not asking you to endure anything nearly that tough, just to brave Facebook. Join our Living the Way of Mastery Facebook group to connect, dive deeper into the teachings, and get your questions answered. It only takes a few minutes. Go to facebook.com/groups/living the way of mastery. See you there.